Art can mean different things to different people. For me, it's all about the joy of creativity. So if you draw, paint, write, dance, sing, craft, play air guitar, or even sculpt using nothing more than mashed potatoes, consider yourself an artist and join our conversation. For the next half hour, meet the artist and learn about their inspiration while we all enjoy the beauty of creativity. Welcome to Season 2 of ARTalk with John Cole Artist. Well, hey everybody, it's John Cole Artist. I am smiling because over the summer, StreamYard, which is the service that I use to run my podcast, upgraded part of their web browser component, which allows the intro and the outro pieces to begin once you either start the stream or end the stream. And I tell you, I just tried it and hopefully it came through okay, but it made my life a lot easier. I don't have to worry about that waiting to get my ducks in a row type thing, right? Oh, Christine, you're on. Hello, Christine. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hey, today is Tuesday, October 20-something. Today is the 22nd of October, and this really is the first time that I've been on since June. And I wanted to make this kind of a special episode because the last time I did a broadcast was again back in June, and here we are already in October. Where have I been for the last 3 or 4 months? And why haven't I been broadcasting? And it's certainly not because I dislike doing this podcast, because to be honest with you, I absolutely love it. I love to talk to people. I love to have the opportunity to talk. And specifically when I have interviews with people, I really, really enjoy that. But the fact is, over the summer, I had some things that happened that basically put me into a bad place. And Tracy's on, my daughter Tracy's on. Hi, Tracy. She says hello from Western New York. But yeah, I was in a really bad place over the summer, and I just want to go over that a little bit and tell you how my summer went and let you know where I think this podcast is heading as we move forward. Now, I will say that in June, I decided to take a vacation in the American Southwest. Oh, Michael and Lucy, my grandson and daughter, are watching as well. Hi, kids. And happy birthday to Michael. His birthday was earlier this month, and I didn't have a chance to visit, but happy birthday, Michael. But anyway, in June, I decided I was going to take a 5-week vacation to the American Southwest. And for those that don't know, the previous year I had vacationed out there for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. I went to the Lost Dutchman State Park in Apache Junction, Arizona. I had such a great time 2 years ago that I thought I would do it again this year. And let me tell you, I spent a good year planning for this trip, which is why it ended up being 5 weeks in length, because the idea would be to go to Apache Junction, visit the Lost Dutchman State Park again, like I did the previous year, do some hiking, maybe hike some trails I hadn't hiked before. And then as part of that trip, visit some places I hadn't been before. The idea would be to go to places like Bryce Canyon, the national park there, to go to Grand Staircase, to spend some time at Arches National Park, which I had visited 2 years ago, but I hadn't had the opportunity to camp. And that's really what I wanted to do. So, the idea was I was going to spend this whole year planning for this thing, getting all the dates set up, getting all the camping reservations in place, because when you're working with a national park, it can be kind of hard to do that because most national parks, if not all now, require some kind of reservation for campsites, and they go quickly, right? So Arches is a great example. I couldn't get a campsite at Arches no matter how hard I tried, and it was worrying me because the question was, where was I going to sleep for those couple nights? It could have slept in the truck. That's not an issue. I've done that before, but I really wanted to sleep at the national park. But with the app, it allowed me to set a notification, and wouldn't you know it, like 3 or 4 days before I was scheduled, for this grand trip, some campsites opened up at Arches, and I was just thrilled. And it really just was like the icing on the cake, because the whole trip then was perfect. 5 weeks of perfection. There was Tombstone, there was Apache Junction, there was Bryce Canyon, there was Sedona, all these places I was going to visit, And I was just so excited for that. But I almost had a feeling that it wasn't going to go great, even well before I left my driveway that morning. Because like a week prior to, I had to contact the insurance company and work with the local Toyota dealer because some rodents, mice or something, ate through the wiring beneath my truck. It looking back at it, it almost was like there was this slight hint that maybe I shouldn't take this trip. I'm not a superstition person. I'm not one to necessarily believe in omens and things like that. But it was interesting that happened so close to my trip. But then I left, and I found that from the moment I left, all the way up until I ended up returning. I returned 2 weeks premature. Weird things were happening along the way. For example, the weather. The previous year I had gone down there. Weather was nice and warm. Perfect weather, as a matter of fact. But this time I was getting rain. I was getting rain all across Texas. I was getting rain in New Mexico. I was getting rain in Arizona. And, there is a monsoon season out that way. And apparently it started earlier this year. So I ended up finding myself sleeping in the truck more often than I wanted to, which is a very uncomfortable place to be. In a minute, I'm going to show you a video from one of the places where the rain was affecting things, but it was really weird, right? And then there were the deer. The deer ultimately would be my downfall on this trip, but I was seeing deer everywhere I went. Interestingly, I was camping at the Lost Dutchman State Park in Arizona, and I saw deer running through the park, which was different because it's not something you would normally see. Weather temperatures right around 110 degrees. There wasn't a lot to eat, right? It's the middle of the desert. And yet I saw some deer running through close to my campsite. And even stranger, that night when I was sleeping, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up in my tent only to find deer looking at me from outside the tent. And then interesting still relative to deer is while I was at Mesa Verde in Colorado, the state park there, I saw deer there again, And really deer would be, again, the turning point in the trip, because 2.5 weeks in, when I was, the day after I left Mesa Verde and was passing through Cortez, Colorado, I hit a deer. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a picture of the damage that this deer caused when it jumped out in front of me. And this was 7:30 in the morning. You can see the roads were nice and clear. There were some vehicles ahead of me. Tracy says a lot of deer, absolutely. And Christine writes creepy. It really was very, very strange. But I'm driving and I was heading to Arches of all places, right? The one place I really wanted to go and spend some time. I left and was driving through Cortez, and this deer jumped out literally nowhere. Next thing you know, it was right in front of me. And, playing it back in my head, I did not see it jump out. It just was there. The next thing I know, I can see this deer flying off into the distance. I mean, I smacked this thing hard. So hard, in fact, that I couldn't drive it. So it was towed over to a service or a dealership, a Ford dealership in Cortez, where I had to have them effect repairs. Now, the thing about the repairs, though, is it took 3 months. My vehicle spent 3 months in Colorado, almost 4 months, actually, getting repaired. And the reason it took so long, it wasn't because it was at a Ford dealership. It was because there were no parts availability. So they actually had to order some from Japan and wait for Japan to start producing them. And Christine writes, it scared the heck out of her. And it absolutely did, because I was talking to her through my Bluetooth, hands-free, right at the same time. It just came out of nowhere, and I hit this thing, and it just went flying. But yeah, I lost my truck for almost 4 months. But the nice thing about it is it did finally show up maybe a week and a half ago. It was shipped. We had it shipped from Colorado to Massachusetts. So here it is being offloaded. And they did a great job. The dealership did a great job repair. It just took forever to get it fixed. Now, the one thing I will say about this particular adventure, number one is, from an insurance perspective, it cost them right around $17,000 to fix my truck. $17,000. So thank heavens I had insurance. So if I would have had to pay that, a truck would still be in Colorado. And the second thing is, we're moving from October into November, and just yesterday I got a citation notice from the state of New Jersey because apparently I didn't pay my toll on the New Jersey Turnpike, which I'm trying to fight because, well, my vehicle was on the back of a flatbed as it came through New Jersey. So I wasn't even driving the vehicle, right? But very, very expensive, very catastrophic event for me. I mean, luckily I wasn't hurt. You know, the airbags are, you know, didn't deploy or anything like that. Luckily I wasn't hurt, but I noticed that this whole accident put me in a very odd headspace. I felt extremely guilty, and I felt guilty for having the accident. I felt guilty for basically ruining my truck. I felt like I lost a part of me, and it wasn't because of the truck. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. It wasn't because of the truck. It was because I had spent almost a year planning for this trip, and it was going to be like the perfect trip for me. So I was totally 100% vested into this. And when I hit that deer, all that went away, and I felt horrible. So between the guilt and between the fact that I wasn't able to finish my trip, I really went to this really dark place. What's interesting is I have the tools. Oh, hi, Heather. Heather's on. Heather Doran. Hi, Heather. The thing is I have the tools because I know that it's just thoughts that are creating these feelings. But I felt so devastated that I ended up stepping away from everything. I stepped away from the podcast. I stepped away from the artwork I'm doing. I stepped away from genealogy. I stepped away from my community, stepped away from my friends, everything. I felt so horrible, like, oh my God, what did I do? And I basically did nothing, you know? And the good news, though, is that over the last couple months, I have been using the tools that I have to get myself back into a place where I'm confident again to move forward. And I think that there's a lesson there, not only for myself, but for other folks as well. And some of the things that I've picked out over the course of the last couple months, having gone through this myself. Number one is it's okay to grieve something as quote unquote minimal as like a vacation or your car or something like that. Yes, they're only things. And yes, you can always plan to do, you know, vacations again, but it's okay to grieve that because it's a loss. You invest yourself in your house, you invest yourself in your automobile, you invest yourself in your family, and then things happen that are bad. You grieve that, you know. So I'm okay with that now. I wasn't initially, but I am now. It's okay to grieve things like that. And the other thing I think is that it's okay if you take some time to get yourself back on track. You know, I having never gone through something like this before, I've often wondered, well, why does it take people so long to, you know, to smile again after something like an auto accident where there wasn't injury, and yet, you know, and yet maybe their car was in the shop or something. I never got it. I never understood that, but I certainly do now. So there was a huge learning opportunity for me there. And I guess the last thing would be is the resiliency piece. And I think that's probably the most important piece is we are resilient creatures. You know, we come back after catastrophe and we tend to come back a lot stronger. You know, there's a lot of folks that recently went through the hurricanes, you know, Hurricane Helene and Hurricane, gosh, I forgot what the other one was. That's horrible. But anyway, there's a lot of people that were devastated by that, but I know that they're going to come back. So whether or not they're going to live in the same place or whether or not they're going to move someplace else or whatever, they will come back and they will be stronger than ever because we do have a tendency to be a lot more resilient. So, but yeah, that's where I've been. You know, I just didn't want to do Oh, Milton, that's what it was. Yeah, Hurricane Milton. But the good news is I'm back, and I'm very, very excited moving forward. And I did promise you a really quick video. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. This is about 2 minutes long, and it's an example of, well, let me set the scene. Okay, so here's what happened. One of the places I did get to see during that 2 weeks was Chaco Canyon. What is Chaco Canyon? Well, it's a uh, basically it's a national park that's in the middle of New Mexico. And it's a prehistoric site, and it's a pretty amazing site. It's got some dwellings there, dating back maybe 1,500 years that are very well preserved, and they're very unique, stylistically, architecturally, very unique. They have round kivas, which is places where they believe that they did, some kind of religious ceremonies and things like that. Everything's built in that adobe type stuff, right? The blocks made out of the mixture of clay and water and things like that. Beautiful location, but the problem is that there aren't any paved roads there. There's no paved roads in, no paved roads coming out. And I, because I happened to hit it during rainy season, started down the directions that the GPS told me, only to find myself having to turn around, because even though I have a 4-wheel drive truck, the mud was so slick that I am so lucky I did not get stuck in a ditch, because there were other folks that were, going through back and forth that got stuck, that could not move, that hopefully are not still there today. But I had to turn around and come back. Fortunately, working with Christine, I had Christine on the phone, and she was talking to me and helping me to get a different set of directions. Found a different route in the northern route. Again, still muddy. But I was going to go to Chaco Canyon at all costs. So this is a very short video here, and I'll talk about my YouTube channel here in a second. But this video just shows you a little bit about what I had to go through. Well, this ain't looking good. Up ahead, it looks like there's a flash flood. So, not quite confident whether or not God, this road is so freaking bumpy. Jesus. Yeah, I don't know now. This buck might stop here, folks. I don't know. Let's check it out. Ugh. It's definitely a flash flood area. I mean, I don't know. I might be able to make it through, but if I make it through, what does that mean on the other side, right? I don't know. This is just frustrating. I get so close, and then there's some issue, and then I've got to change everything up. So I don't know. Let me think about this. All right, I'm gonna put this thing in the 4-wheel drive, and I'm gonna go for it. So wish me luck. I'm gonna go slow though. Hopefully it's not too deep here. Well, I made it through in 4-wheel drive. That's probably the dumbest thing I ever did, because I gotta remember I gotta come back this way yet, and if there's a problem up there and that water gets, oh well, you know what? All in the name of fun, right? It's all in the name of adventure. I'll look back on this someday and I'll laugh. I will. I swear. I hope. So yeah, can you believe that? So the big fear, I look back at the video, and it doesn't look that bad. But the fact of the matter is I didn't know how deep that water was going to be, and I didn't know how hard that water was rushing across the road. I mean, fortunately, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I had no idea what was going to happen. And I, looking back, I also didn't know what the following morning was going to look like. Had it continued to rain, I probably would have got stuck at Chaco Canyon. So, but that just give you an example. And Christine, you're right. She says you had to deal with many natural occurrences like the sandstorm. Yeah, that's a very good point. And thank you for reminding me of that. When I was in Alamogordo, which is New Mexico near White Sands, and I had been to White Sands National Park before, and I thought I would spend a night next to Holloman Lake near the Holloman Air Force Base, because they have that dispersed camping or primitive camping where it's just basically land where you can toss up a tent and then sleep for free, right? No services, of course, but there's a opportunity there to be able to camp without having to pay for anything. And that night, I look over in the distance and I'm seeing what looks like this big cloud bank, and it's probably about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Come to find out, it's a frickin' sandstorm, and oh my heavens, it was horrible. There was another night I had to sleep in the cab of my truck because the wind was blowing so hard and it had picked up so much dust that, and I guess I found out afterwards that there were all kinds of accidents and everything else all the way, that corridor through there, because of that sandstorm. So it was pretty devastating. And then Christine also said there was the fire. When I arrived at Lost Man State Park, there were still fire crews on the ground because there had been a brush fire that had literally not moments before passed through that way. So there was all these things that just like, ugh, terrible. And Heather, here, you write, roads washed out all the time where I grew up in the desert. They get really bad. Absolutely. I was, cautioned after the fact by somebody else that I know that I should not have done that. Yeah, well, lesson learned. I did it, and I'm glad, part of me is glad I did, because it really did add this element of adventure to the trip. Just because, again, it was I don't even know how to describe it. I was having an amazing time, and yet the whole world seemed to be against me. And when I say the world, I don't mean the people. I mean natural environment. It was almost like somebody was trying to tell me even before I left that, John, don't take this trip. And I honestly, I almost felt that way before I even left. Like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't go, but I wanted it so bad, that I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And I think that the universe finally stepped in on that morning on July 3rd at 7:30 in the morning and said, all right, you're not listening to my other omens. I'm going to make you stop. And it did. Christine writes, there was another place you couldn't camp or build a fire because of the brush fires. Yeah. It was at Carlsbad Caverns. I was going to stay there, and they basically said I can't, because what ends up happening is that people do build fires, and then it's so hot. I mean, again, it was running like 110 112 degrees a day, and out on the low part of the desert there. It was super hot, so anything like that was causing an issue. But again, the deer came, stopped me in my tracks. So I really didn't get to finish what I started. But I am next year. Now, well before I got my truck back, which was only about a week and a half ago, I already made my reservations in the Superstitions. Again, I'm going to take another trip out there, this time a few weeks earlier, hopefully to bypass the rainy season. But I'm going to spend 6 nights there at the Superstition Mountains, and I'm going to go ahead and build out another 4 to 5 week plan. And I really would like to do the things I wasn't able to do. So what I'm going to do is I've already made those reservations. Next thing is to work through the national park system for places like Arches, like Bryce Canyon, which I can't do yet because they don't really put the schedule out up until like 6 months before the dates that you want to go. So I can't plan a full year in advance for those. I have to make the reservations later. But I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let that type of thing stop me. I'm not going to let this really weird headspace I've been in stop me. I'm going to use the tools that I have. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to work through it. And that's what we do, especially if we're passionate about something like I am. So I'm going again. Heather writes, good question. Have you considered using a tent that fits on the bed of your truck? I, Heather, have been looking at everything. As a matter of fact, today, on the way home from, where'd we go? We went to the pet store because we had to get a net for our fish. Yes, we have fish now. Stopped at a place that sells truck caps because I thought, well, what if I had one of those, walk-in truck caps? The reason that okay. Let me. Anyway, I stopped and looked at truck caps, but the problem is those things tend to leak. As a matter of fact, the person I spoke with there said, it's great if you get one, but it's going to leak. So it was good information to have. I've looked on Amazon for the pop-up type things, but I'm not quite sure about those. I have considered the pull-behind trailers, things like the teardrops, but they're super, super expensive. And I know there's a place that's in Nashua, New Hampshire, or Salem, New Hampshire, that sells the inserts, the basically hard-topped inserts that are like trailer things. I think they were popular years ago, but even those are super, super expensive. So I would love, Heather, to have something that fits that I could use as a tent, specifically when it's raining, because again, sleeping in the cab of my truck, what a great idea in my head, but in practice, it's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. So worst case scenario, as I have the tent, pop the tent up, sleep outside, or just sleep in the cab again. But I'm doing it, and it's going to be so much fun. So that's where I've been, but I'm back, and I'm going to try to get back on a regular schedule, get some more artists on here. But coming up, here's what I envision. I'm going to finish out this year hard and firm and strong and powerful and all those words, and then enter 2025 making this even better. Next week, it's my Halloween special. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get anybody to be on the show, but I do have ghost stories, personal ghost stories that I'd love to share with you. And I probably have some video and some audio clips from some of the investigations I've been on all the years that would be fun. Yep, for Halloween, it's going to be great. And then the week after that, I have artist April Small. She's going to be on the first week in November, and she was on, almost a year ago. So it's going to be really, really nice to catch up with her. She's a local artist as well. She lives in the Massachusetts area. So talking to her is going to be a lot of fun. So if there's any of you that like to be on the podcast, I invite you to reach out and talk to me. I'd love to have you on. Art stuff is always great, but even if it meanders off somewhere else, it's all about having the adventure, which is what it's all about. So that's all I have for you tonight. For those of you that are on here live, thank you so much for interacting with me. I appreciate it. And for those that are watching the replay or listening to the replay, I appreciate it. This is really a lot of fun for me, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. Oh, I wanted to mention the YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber, feel free to subscribe because it's free. You just press a button, and I don't even know whether or not you get notified of anything in your email because I never have. But if you look at the YouTube channel right now, I've divided it up a little bit differently, and I want to invite you to check that out because specifically now towards, not at the top, because I think the first row of videos are the speeches that I've given, the one, the TEDx this year. Was it this year? Busy year. My TEDx, and then my Behind the Power event. And then I do ARTalk, and then below that, I believe, is a series of videos based on some of the adventures that I had this summer. The good thing is I still have more video that I need to go through and put together, some hiking adventures that I had in some places that I visited. So I invite you to check that out because they're not bad. I'm actually very proud of those. I like how they're turning out. It's good for me to be able to go back and relive those experiences, and then I'm able to share those with you as well. And thank you, Heather. So glad you are back. So excited you're back, Christine. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But yeah, check out my YouTube channel. Subscribe if you can. In the meantime, Halloween's coming up. Can't wait. And we'll see how that goes. So thank you all very much. And I will see you all next week. Oh, see, this is all new. I got this new interface. Thank you so very much for joining me on the Art Talk podcast, where it's my goal to bring artists together to talk about their craft. If you'd like to join me for a conversation, please reach out via email at johncoleartist@gmail.com or by visiting my website at johnrobertcole.com. So until next time, keep crafting, painting, and inspiring others with your creativity. You make more of an impact than you know. See ya.